What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is Robert Aber from Cyberlord Games, bringing you one of our first competitive deck techs. Today we're going to be talking about Kaguya. Daniel, I think his last name was Candio. He's the owner of Bakaneko, actually, over in Italy. He won a recent Open, or he split in the Open for his qualifying seat. So tested the deck, and it's actually really good. So I figured I would share with you guys, since a lot of people are asking for deck techs. Now, normally I would do a live deck tech, but I wanted to discuss the cards in depth, and so being able to actually see the cards as I'm like hovering over them, and then you can read the abilities a whole lot easier. And so I figured Lackey would probably be the best way to actually do these. I may get some, if I do play some games, it'll probably be live coverage games. We'll set that up, but for right now we're going to do the deck tech. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So the ruler is Seer of the Blue Moon, which is the Kaguya. Her J activate is pay 0. You can't use the ability unless you've played a treasury item this turn, which is a bunch of treasury items. There's two different versions of this deck, actually. There's the version that Daniel's kind of playing, or played, and then there's the combo version, which seems to be pretty popular here from a lot of players. That's from IPAC. He's another overseas player. Pretty sure I probably pronounced his name wrong, and I apologize. But it uses the combo of the we'll get to the combo, but he uses the combo of Jules to bring back Alice's World after you destroy it with Elvish Bowman to basically generate infinite turns. So there's the two different versions of the deck. I personally like Daniel's version because you have to devote a certain number of slots to the combo version, and it's pretty fragile unless you're running things to protect your Bowman, like Realm of Pure Spirits and the little cake house to basically remove your Bowman from harm and then pop it back into play when you're ready to go off. So, but let's go ahead and talk about this deck. Like I said, this is Seer of the Blue Moon Kaguya. We talked about a J activate. You can pay 0. You can only do it if you've played a treasury item this turn. And then a continuous, which is actually pretty good, but it's really not utilized in his version, is where you pay 1 instead of 2 to put your standby chance down in your standby area. So overall, pretty good. One thing Lackey doesn't allow me to do is actually show you the flip side, but Kaguya, she can't attack, but what she allows you to do is you can pay 0 to change the text or the attribute or whatever of an addition or resonator or whatever, basically as many times as you want. So it allows you to change things such as, let's see, one of the good things is what this in the deck we'll get to is like Longinus, or even the Jules edition, which allows you to bring back a dark edition from your graveyard, where you change it to water, and that's how you can loop the Alice's World. You basically change one attribute from one to another. So really strong, very strong passive ability that you can basically just activate on a bunch of different things, and it's a lot more disruptive than what was first thought to be when people looked at the cards. Her second ability, which you can't see, but it's 1 colorless and 2 water will, and allows you to search your deck for any treasury item and put it into your hand. And this is basically just use it as many times as you want, basically, or it just allows you to just go fetch up whatever treasury item you need. And so let's go ahead and get to the deck, and I go ahead of it already sorted by type. You can see the list right here. This is the list he ran didn't use the sideboard, because all sideboards, of course, are going to be different, and they're going to be tailored to whatever your specific local meta is, or whatever the tournament you're expecting. I'll get into his sideboard a little bit later, even though I don't have it, but I have it written down. I can explain some of the choices and his general overall strategy for what he sideboarded into. So starting off, let's go ahead and start with the additions. You have Alvarez. So Alvarez the Demon Castle is a field which, you can, of course, if you're new to the game, you can only have one addition field basically in play, and it pumps up all of your vampires with +200/+200, which is the majority of all the fields have that common theme. But its activation is you pay a darkness and you banish it, and you get to return a vampire resonator from your graveyard in your hand, which is really, really, really powerful when you're running the vampire package, which he's running, of Lore and Carmilla. Also, he's running the Jewels of the Dragon's Neck, which is basically being able to put any addition from your graveyard into your hand, which is cool. Just because being able to return, of course, remember you can change it with Kaguya to basically make it any addition, so you can bring basically every single one of these additions back from your graveyard. And it's just really, really strong. Jeweled Branch of Harai. A lot of US players aren't actually even talking about the card, but it's insanely powerful. It's very, very deceptive in how good this card actually is, especially versus werewolf strategies and basically any basically any aggressive deck, especially with Kaguya, because you're able, like I said, you're able to change the attributes. So it basically just says pay 1 light will and tap up to 2 creatures. It's basically what it says. And when you're able to sit there and just keep something tapped down, for the most part, it has a lot of versatility, and it's very defensive. It's like, for not having a lot of life gain cards in the Grim sets, this actually does save you more often than not with the removal package and everything that he's running. So very, very solid card, very very necessary. I wouldn't say, well, maybe not necessary is the correct word, but I would definitely consider running a copy or two in your list if you're playing light, if your Mana Stone base could support it. And you have a very aggressive local meta, which I expect the majority of all the local metas to be pretty aggressive in the beginning. A lot of mono red, a lot of mono green fairy tales, and then so either musketeers or the Oz characters and everything. So definitely expect to be really, really good. Granted, Crucifix causes some issues, but you have some answers. So the next we have is Longinus, the Holy Lance. It's a 2-drop light addition for your Resonators. It gives it +500/+500, and what the kicker is like it cannot be the creature cannot be targeted by darkness spells or darkness cards' abilities, and prevent all damage that would be dealt to it by darkness cards. So Dracula is very, very big on the competitive scene, as well as Abdul and everything else. And Longinus is also, I mean, like I said, Kaguya changes attributes, so it can basically, once you have it on a creature, unless they answer the Longinus, your Resonator is basically, for all intents and purposes, completely untouchable for the most part. But yeah, it gives it 500/+500. Can't be targeted basically by any spells and any abilities, and prevents all damage that would be dealt to it by any of that attributes cards after you've J-activated Kaguya, of course. But until then, it's only darkness. But still, it's very, very powerful after you've J-activated. You can basically search it up, slap it on your creature, and if they don't remove it, in response while Longinus is on the chase, then yeah, you have a pretty sick beater that just doesn't go away, just doesn't die. Then, of course, he's running a single copy of Stone Bowl of Buddha. Basically says, target Resonator cannot be blocked by water Resonators until end of turn. Basically, whatever Resonator you have, you just can't be blocked for the most part, because with the amount of removal that's in the deck, usually you're going to have to worry about maybe 1 or 2 creatures, and you can set up scenarios to where you just either tap down whatever creatures are troublesome, or the other different color Resonators, and then just use this to keep swinging in. Plus, it's really good to where you can force creatures to not block of a certain attribute, and then go to revenge kill something that you've tapped down at end of turn. So you kind of get, it's a nice one of. I like it, especially when you're trying to go in. If you wind up having something that's a brick wall, it just helps you get past it. He runs 1 copy of Vampire Bat in the main board. When I first started playing it, it was interesting. I wasn't sure that it actually belonged, but the simple fact that as the games went on and on and on, the red players usually would kind of burn out, and then I would being able to slam a Vampire Bat on like turn 5, turn 6, and then getting at least even just getting 1 attack or 1 decent block in, and gaining 1,000, 1,200 life, which usually, that's all it really took. So it's definitely a nice little tech card that can pay off big in a lot of situations and give you kind of a little boost of life whenever your opponent least expects it. So there's some other cards I'll talk about later that I was curious why they weren't in there, but looking at the tournament reports, it was definitely a very, very, very aggressive aggressive meta for that tournament. So a lot of the choices made a lot of sense after I saw the complete tournament report. He runs 3 Cinderella the Ashen Maiden. Probably one of the best 2-drops in the game. There's a couple others, but Cinderella is definitely, in my opinion, if you're running Darkness, you have to basically run Cinderella. The card's just too good. The first ability really isn't. I don't think there was a Prince in any of the deck, any of the whatchamacallit, so that really wasn't the the reason. But the being able to sack a creature and then deal basically Pyroclasm if you're a Magic player, or just deal 200 damage to each of your opponent's Resonators, basically at instant speed, is really, really powerful, especially early on for the in rush strategies, especially with things like your Oz characters like Tin Man and Cowardly Lion and the Scarecrow. They're all like 200 base. So being able to sack something off in response to say something, one of them coming in and instantly becoming a 500, it's really good. Plus, you just clearing the board with stuff allows you to turn. It gives extra value to the Cheshire Cats in your deck and your Little Mermaids of Tragic, which we'll get to here in a minute. And overall, it's just really good. It bridges the gap from the early turns into the later turns. So it's a very, very solid card. I expect, regardless of whatever deck you play, expect to see Cinderellas in people's main decks if they're running Darkness. The same thing with a couple of these cards. So the next, of course, is the staple 4 of Servant of Vampire and the 4 Lord of the Bloodspeaker. We'll talk about the Servant of Vampire first. As you can see, I'm pretty sure you've already skimmed through the list, and you're probably already ahead of me. But he's basically running the Vampire package. Magic players will call it Esper. Kaijudo players will call it Lightwater Darkness. But he's basically running the Lightwater Darkness or Esper Shell, or he's running that base. And one of the big popular packages that the Darkness lends to yourself is being able to run things like the Vampire Shell, and then being able to sideboard, which is another huge in-depth strategy for competitive play, is being able to sideboard in other rulers. So being able to sideboard Dracula, for instance, and having already having your Servants, your Lores, and Carmillas and everything already in your deck, there's not a lot of sideboarding you do. You're really just kind of bringing over a ruler and some other support and utility cards to help kind of beef up the list versus your aggro mid-range strategies and everything like that. So, but Servant of Vampire is a 1-drop 200/200. It's a pretty self-explanatory guy. We had him in the demo decks. As you can see, as a continuous, is as your opponent plays spells or abilities targeting a vampire you control, he must choose this card if able. Really, really strong for providing protection for your things like Carmilla or your Vampire Bat. So you can sit there and equip it after you've J activated, of course, being able to drop a servant as protection, and then play something like Vampire Bat or Carmilla or something, just anything, and then equipping it with like a Longinus, and then just having a complete beat stick like Vampire Bat with Longinus and Servant of Vampire backup is just pretty nutty. Of course, with the ruling, it's been talked about. If you have 2 in play, you basically you are able to choose at least one of them, because it does say if you look if able, target if able at the bottom. So other than that, very 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 good for 1-drop. It's a speed bump early on, and it's very very valuable in the late game for protecting your bigger threats. The next, of course, he runs a play set of Laura. Basically, the Vampire pack is, like I said, it's 4/4/4. Going to be pretty common throughout a lot of the decks that run Darkness. So, for Laura the Blood Speaker, it's basically the card's just really really good. It trades with the 5/3 Werewolf. It trades with the 3/3 Haste guy. It stops Oz creatures from like Cowardly Lions from getting like. It just keeps them kind of honest if they kind of stumble for a turn or they don't have the odds as magic. But the simple fact that her inner ability allows you to basically tutor up any Vampire Resonator is really, really, really strong. So you can basically just chain Lauras into each other, or ideally, what you basically do, what I've been doing mostly, and a lot of people I've seen a lot of others do, is they'll just Laura. And if they have another Laura, they don't worry about it. But you either chain Lauras or you just go Laura into Carmilla for the most part. Which, I mean, when we talk about Laura, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's a tutor. It's really, really, really good. 300. It's very solid 2-drop. Carmilla, of course, is probably one of the best cards in the deck, and it's not close. Besides Cheshire Cat, the simple fact that she's a vampire and goes with it instantly turns on and allows you to J-activate Dracula when you sideboard into it. But the fact that she's a 4-drop that comes into play and destroys a non-target, it just instantly destroys whatever the worst threat on the board is. It's a great way to answer things like Mephistopheles. I mean, granted, you lose the 500 life points, but being able to put an 800 on the board and kill the 1500 Mephistopheles, which is usually pretty hard to deal with for a lot of decks, or killing a dragon or killing a Pied Piper, or just being able to answer something that is very 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 powerful and requires an answer is really really solid. And then of course after you sideboard and you bring in Dracula, just being able to steal it if it's human, which is really good versus Joan of Arc control decks. A couple other decks that are out there that run humans. So all in all, it's a very 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 solid card with Carmilla. Like I said, probably one of the best besides Cheshire Cat. Then we have it's a very deceptive card, Servant of Kaguya. It basically, when you first look at it, you're like, it's not that bad, and it's kind of okay. But then once you actually get to playing it, the 2 copies is really good. The fact that he's a 3, it's almost always a 3-drop 800 flying creature, sometimes more. And then on the late game, the flying creatures are very very strong. Having evasion in a game that really has very few ways to deal with evasion creatures is really really solid. This card snowballs pretty hard, and like once you equip it with a Longinus, I mean you have a 1300 flying creature that can't be targeted by whatever. And then of course you just usually win fairly quickly after that. It's a Were-Rabbit, which if you choose to play things like the Swift Kick or whatever, it's pretty good. Snowballs late game. Cheshire Cat. What can you say about Cheshire Cat that isn't already said? Probably the best 1-drop in the game. Not close. It's it's pretty self-explanatory. Even though it's a 0/2, the fact that you draw 2 cards and you put one back on your top, it helps you kind of fix your draws. It can't be targeted by spells or abilities. It's basically an insane roadblock or a little road bump And then whenever it dies, you just basically shuffle it back into your deck. So more often than not, is like you get to draw 2, put whatever card you don't want back on top. Usually block their creature, then shuffle it away. Reminds me of topping in Magic and then just cracking a fetch. Or just pondering, and the card's good. The card's really, really good, and it's the reason why it's sold out everywhere, is basically as fast as it could. Because if you're running blue, regardless, you need 4. So, there's no. This is like a 4. You run as many as you can get because the card's just really too good. You expect to see like 4 ofs in everybody's water list. So, and hopefully you guys pull Cheshires and Carmillas and all that stuff. Because I expect them to stay pretty high. So hopefully you guys pull a bunch in your pack. So the next card is very interesting to see, but it's a 5/3 2-drop Mermaid, which is really the continuous abilities makes it really, really good. Whenever the card is put into a graveyard from your field, you draw a card. But then one of the biggest things is your opponent must block this card of Fable. So what it allows you to do is later on is if you're able to get a Longinus on in the late game, you pretty much just like soft lock your opponent. If they play a creature, granted they can always play a bit larger threat, but having a 1,800 that must be blocked every time it attacks is really good. Also has a lot of synergy, like I said, Cheshire Cat mentioned earlier. Cheshire Cat and Little Mermaid having a lot of synergy with Cinderella. Both have really good, really good synergy with being sacked off. Cheshire Cat, of course, because to shuffle the card away you didn't want. You didn't want in your hand, basically, that the late game drop that you drew early on after mulliganing, or just something that's just a dead card. And then of course the Little Mermaid, being able to sack it and draw a card off it, just a cantrip, is really, really solid. Being a 500 is also really, really good. Blocks a lot of things, kills a lot of things. Yeah, it's just a solid 2-drop. And the last card in the main deck, of course, is Stoning to Death. It's the only spell actually played in his main deck. There's not really much to say. The card is insanely good. Premier removal between I would say it's a toss-up. The double black, I think, puts it below Thunder on being the best removal in the game. But if I had to rank it, I'm pretty sure it's Thunder, then Stoning to Death, and then probably Duel, or maybe Rapid Decay. That's a close one. But Stoning to Death is just really good. It's Terror for Magic. It's just you just pay 2, destroy target creature. It's really, 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 really good. The simple fact that you catch a lot of people being able to respond to things like they play Athos, and in response to them searching for Crucifix or searching for any other addition, you stone the Athos in response, or stoning their Aramis so they don't get to chain a bunch of free mana, and basically just chain a bunch of musketeers onto the field. It's a very solid answer for that strategy. All in all, just really, really, really good. Just really, really good. That's his main deck. I've pretty much touched over it. I'm not sure how long this video's gone so far, but let's talk about this Stone deck. Stone deck's actually pretty self-explanatory. He's running 4 of the Water Darkness, 4 Light Darkness, and then 2 of the Light Water. Playing it, I've never really had a lot of mana issues. I got, ideally you want to, start off with your Dark Depths, and maybe a Heaven's Rift into Light Vapors or something, but all in all, it's very consistent. The deck is really good. It's super consistent. It does have a lot of decisions that need to be made against a lot of decks, and mulliganing is very critical in a deck like this. You really need to know your matchups. Versus the aggro lists, of course, you want to be getting, you want to try to get stuff. Like I would, usually like to get a Cheshire into Cinderella, or maybe like a Laura kind of hand, and just kind of go from there, and then try to, because all this other stuff like Bow, Longinus, Branch, Jewels, and all that stuff, all this, all the treasure items you can get later. after you J activate, or usually often than not you'll draw one to be able to J activate, and then you can search up all the others. But like for your aggressive matchups, you really want to be looking for Cinderella, because it's going to buy you the time to get the things like Carmilla, and then slowly and incrementally regain board control and dominance, and then that's basically when the deck just shines. Is when you just control the board, and just kind of go crazy, and then the game usually ends shortly after that. Really has really strong matchups against aggro style list and mid ranges. However, it does struggle versus decks like Abdul. Abdul is probably the number one, probably the worst matchup for this list in playtesting, because I mean, while you do have answers for things like Mephistopheles, Abdul being able to basically just turn off a lot of your things is really, really powerful, and the fact that he's really hard to kill in a deck like this. It forces you to have the Longinus and a creature actually stay on board, but he'll just shut off your Longinus, and it's that Abdul is just really rough. Other than that, there's a stone deck, the 4, 4, and 2. Here's his list here. I'm pretty sure you've had plenty of time to look at it. Of course, that's Kaguya. I'll get some gameplay footage whenever I actually get some time this week. I know we've slowly getting back into the grind of going to be putting up some content and everything. I've been really super busy with the site. I'm gonna start writing some articles. If you're interested in writing articles, shoot me a PM on Facebook. And yeah, well, I'm all about trying to get as much content out there for everybody as I can. This is, like I said, this is our first competitive deck tech. It did really well. There was 2 versions of Kaguya. I'll cover the combo version. Let me go ahead and show you what actually makes up the combo version. So you have the Jewels of the Dragon's Neck here. If you see it put target Dark Edition from your graveyard to your hand, you just basically change that to water. Then you go down to spells. Actually, it'd probably be easier if I just type it in. Type in Alice's World. There we go. For each Resonator you control that doesn't share any race, it reduces the cost by 1. Basically, it's a field spell that says come into play and take an additional turn. So you slam Alice's World. You hopefully for 4 or 5. At that point, then you use Elvish Bowman, which this should load here in a second, and you just blow it up. And during your at the end of the turn, you pop it back to your hand with the jewels, and you kind of just rinse and repeat. So, of course, the combo version plays green, so you also play things like Gretel, because you want to jump to men as fast as you can. You also play things like Elvish. You can play Elvish Priestess with it, Zeeks for protection, Cake Zones to help get some other stuff through. And just some Law Silence to kind of stop. It's a very, very control-y, combo-y kind of deck, but once you get it going, it's once it gets going, it's hard to beat. If you don't have anything to disrupt it, or if you don't recognize what's going on early on, then yeah, it's pretty rough. But I mean, if your opponent sits down with Kaguya and you see them play, they call a black-green Mana Stone or a blue-green Mana Stone, and they start playing, Priestess and Gretels and everything, you can pretty much assume that, you're playing against the combo version, so you need to prioritize removing their Elvish Bowmans. But other than that, if you guys have any questions on the deck, I'm pretty sure, I'll tag him, and I'm pretty sure he wouldn't mind answering questions, but I'll tag Daniel. But if not, feel free to ask questions. I'll give what advice I have. I've only played about 20 or so matches with the deck, and it's really, really good. Really, really good. It's congrats again to Daniel for I'm pretty sure he split the open with his opponent. and I got his invite. But yeah, this deck is really, really good. Sorry for the little fast scroll there. So Kaguya, definitely a ruler to watch out for. And yeah, like, comment, subscribe, guys. Feel free to share the video. I'll post it in the Facebook groups. If you're looking for any singles, cyberlordgames.com. We try to bring you guys the best prices on singles. We'll have a big restock coming up. We do have a contest going on, a giveaway. For every for every order you have of $25 or more, your name gets put into a drawing at the end of the month. We're giving away a booster box, as well as one lucky winner will get a booster box, and then a couple other lucky winners will get a playmat from the pre-orders that are no longer available. They were first print pre-orders, and we also have some promos and everything else that we have for all of you guys. So like I said, like, comment, and subscribe. Check out Cyberlord Games if you need any for your singles needs. And yeah, guys, just let me know what you think of Daniel's Kaguya list. I like playing it. It's definitely in my gauntlet of decks. And yeah, you know, feel free to share. Hope you guys had a great Valentine's Day weekend. I'll try to get some more content up as soon as possible. So yeah, until next time, guys, take it easy. This is Robert Abear of Cyberlord Games, signing out. Peace.